This is the story of how my cold, arrogant CEO noticed me for the first time. Not because I spoke up, but because I stayed silent. My name is Jina Park, and for the past 2 years, I've been the executive assistant no one really sees. I'm the one who makes sure the coffee is hot, the reports are flawless, and the schedules run like clockwork. I'm efficient, invisible, always one step behind the people who actually get the credit. And my boss, CEO Kang Minho, brilliant, feared, brutally honest in a way that makes grown men in Armani suits shift uncomfortably in their chairs. He's the kind of person who never filters his words, especially when dealing with people he considers beneath him, which, let's be real, is pretty much everyone. But here's the thing about being invisible for too long. Eventually, you start to believe that's all you are, until the day everything changed. Conference room A, Thursday morning, 9:47 a.m. I was standing against the back wall, tablet in hand, taking notes during the quarterly strategy meeting. 12 executives sat around the glass table, all sharp suits and sharper ambitions. And at the head of it all, Minho, dark suit, darker eyes, fingers steepled, like he was calculating exactly how much time everyone was wasting. The marketing director was presenting a new campaign, something flashy, something expensive. We're projecting a 34% increase in brand engagement across all demographics, he said, clicking to the next slide. I noticed it immediately. The data didn't match. The projection graph was using last quarter's metrics, not the updated ones from finance. It was a small error, but the kind that could derail an entire pitch if someone asked the wrong question. I hesitated. Should I say something? Would anyone even listen? But then I thought, this is my job. To catch these things, to make sure everything runs smoothly. So I cleared my throat, softly, professionally. Excuse me. The room didn't exactly fall silent. It just paused, like someone had pressed a button, and everyone's attention lagged for half a second before turning toward me. I kept my voice steady. I think there might be a discrepancy in the engagement metrics. The graph is still using Q2 data, but finance updated the projections last week. Miss Park. Minho's voice cut through the room like a blade. I froze. He didn't even look at me, just kept his eyes on the presentation screen, his jaw tight. You're just an assistant, don't overstep. The words landed like a slap. The marketing director blinked. One of the VPs coughed into his fist. Someone else suddenly became very interested in their pen. And me, I felt the heat rush to my face. My throat tightened. My brain screamed 1,000 responses at once. Actually, I'm the one who compiled that data. Actually, I'm the reason half your meetings don't fall apart. Actually, maybe if you listened for once, you wouldn't look like an idiot when the numbers don't add up. But outwardly, I smiled, a small, polite smile, the kind you give when you're pretending everything is fine. Then I lowered my head, clicked my pen, and went back to taking notes, as if nothing had happened. The silence that followed was worse than the words. It stretched across the room like something sticky and uncomfortable, and no one wanted to touch it. The marketing director cleared his throat and continued. The meeting went on, and I stood there, perfectly still, writing down every word like a good little assistant. But inside I was burning. I didn't cry. I wanted to. God, I wanted to, but I didn't. Instead, I went back to my desk, sat down, and stared at my computer screen until the words stopped blurring. Then I opened a blank document and typed things I should have said to CEO Kang Minho but didn't, because I enjoy being employed. 1. Maybe if you paid attention to your own data, you wouldn't need me to correct you in front of a room full of people who already think you're insufferable. 2. I'm just an assistant, but somehow I'm the only one in this building who knows what's actually going on. 3. You know what? You're right. I'll stop overstepping. Good luck finding your own files, remembering your own meetings, and figuring out why your coffee tastes different when I'm not the one making it. I stared at the list for a long moment. Then I deleted it. Because that's what invisible people do. We swallow it, we move on. We pretend it doesn't hurt. It happened 2 hours later. I was heading down to grab lunch, alone as usual, when the elevator doors opened on the 14th floor. And there he was. Minho stepped inside, phone in hand, jaws still set in that perpetual expression of mild irritation. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me, just pressed the button for the lobby and stood there, scrolling through emails like I didn't exist. The doors closed. Silence. Just the hum of the elevator and the faint sound of his breathing. I kept my eyes on the floor, my hands folded in front of me, professional, composed, invisible. But then I felt it, his gaze. I didn't look up, I didn't move, but I could feel the weight of his attention shift toward me, slow and deliberate, like he was seeing me for the first time. Not as the assistant who handed him files, not as the person who kept his schedule. As something else. The elevator dinged. 10th floor, 9th floor, 8th. He still hadn't looked away. My pulse quickened. I didn't know why. It wasn't fear exactly. It was something stranger. Something that made my skin feel too tight. Finally, I couldn't help it. I glanced up and met his eyes, dark, sharp, unreadable. He didn't say anything, didn't apologize, didn't even blink. But there was something in his expression, something that hadn't been there before. Curiosity. The elevator doors opened. Lobby. He stepped out first, phone already back at his ear, voice clipped and professional as he answered a call. And just like that, the moment was over. But I stood there, alone in the empty elevator, heart pounding for reasons I couldn't explain. I didn't know it then, but later that afternoon, something happened. Minho had stayed late in his office, reviewing reports. The walls in our building are thin, especially near the executive wing, and the break room where I'd gone to grab tea was right next door. I wasn't alone. One of the junior analysts was there, venting about the morning meeting. "I can't believe he said that to you," she muttered, "in front of everyone. You were just trying to help." I shrugged, stirring my tea. "It's fine. He's under a lot of pressure." "That's not an excuse." "Maybe not. But it's not my job to correct him in front of the board. I should have sent a memo instead." She stared at me. "You're too nice, Jina. If someone talked to me like that, I'd quit on the spot." I smiled, small, sad, honest. "I can't afford to quit over my pride. I have rent to pay, and bills, and a mom who depends on me." I took a sip of tea. "Besides, he's not wrong. I am just an assistant." Silence, then quietly. "But you're so much more than that. You just don't let anyone see it." I didn't respond, because what was there to say? What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Minho had heard every word. He stood just outside the break room, frozen mid-step, a file folder in his hand, and a strange, uncomfortable feeling spreading through his chest. He'd dismissed me in that meeting without a second thought. But now, hearing my voice, calm, composed, devastatingly self-aware, something shifted. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. I packed up my desk at 6:30 p.m., just like always. I said goodnight to the night security guard. I walked to the subway station. I went home. And as I sat on my tiny apartment couch, eating reheated kimchi fried rice and watching a drama I'd seen 3 times before, I told myself the same thing I always did. Tomorrow will be better. But deep down, I knew the truth. Tomorrow would be exactly the same, except it wasn't. Because the next morning, when I arrived at the office, there was a sticky note on my desk, handwritten, sharp angular script. Send me the updated Q3 metrics, MK. I stared at it for a long moment, then I smiled. Not because he'd apologized, but because for the first time in 2 years, CEO Kang Minho had noticed me. And I had no idea it would change everything between us. Next time on From Assistant to the CEO's Choice, he keeps looking at me, and I don't know if I should be terrified or intrigued.